Okay, we're talking about depression symptoms that appear in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual's list of diagnostic criteria. And we've covered the first two, low mood and anhedonia, most of the day, nearly every day. And a person has to have at least one of those severely enough and for long enough, at least 2 weeks, to be said to be in a major depressive episode. And they have to meet criteria for 5 symptoms in total out of 9 possibles. Now, technically, this could mean that someone could have 5 symptoms from column B, the ones we'll start on today, and neither low mood nor anhedonia, so we'd be left wondering, well, what is it if it's not depression? But I don't think I've ever seen that. If somebody's depressed, they've almost always got both low mood and anhedonia, though sometimes one of them is not quite as intense or constant enough to count. So they need 4 more symptoms, or if they've got both, 3 more. What's the first one in column B then? Well, the first one that I'm going to cover is sleep disruption. And let me tell you what I almost never see. I got low mood, I've got anhedonia, and I've got a bunch of other symptoms, enough to count as a major depressive episode, but I sleep like a baby. Doesn't happen often. If someone is getting close to major depression, their sleep is almost always a mess. Now, I need to do a disclaimer here. Remember, I've been saying that no one can diagnose themselves, and that this series isn't intended to tell people whether they have depression or not. If you're suspicious, go see your physician or a psychologist, and don't worry that you're depressed just because you don't sleep well. Almost everyone with serious depression sleeps badly, but lots of people sleep badly, and only some of them are depressed. Sleep problems are really the common cold of mental health, and some of them are caused by physical issues like sleep apnea, which really merits a closer look by your healthcare provider. So, what are we talking about here? Well, mostly it's an issue of too little sleep, and not because you're too busy and you don't have time to get to bed till late or you have to get up early. It's that the sleep mechanism just doesn't seem to be working right. There are 3 primary patterns. First, sleep onset insomnia. You go to bed, you lie there, and it takes you forever to get to sleep. Now, people vary a lot in this naturally. Some people are asleep within minutes, others take a lot longer. We're looking for a departure from the person's usual pattern. When we're diagnosing depression, we mostly don't start paying attention until it's routinely taking over an hour to get to sleep. Again, though, that's some people's regular pattern. The second form is sleep maintenance insomnia. So you go to bed and eventually you get to sleep, but you wake up multiple times through the night. And again, for some people, that's their usual style. Fine. Some people tell me this is happening to them and they're wondering if it's a problem. Well, I ask them how long it takes them to get back to sleep. And if they say a few minutes, or, they get up, they go to the washroom, they maybe have a bit of water, and then they go back to sleep, it's not really a worry. It's not detracting much from their night of sleep. Sleep tends to come in waves for people. So you go to sleep, and pretty soon, you're in a quite deep sleep state. Then you rise out of that, and you have a bit of light dreaming sleep. And then you dive back down into deeper sleep. Now that dreaming sleep, which you've probably heard of as rapid eye movement or REM sleep, is pretty close to wakefulness. And some people tend to crest up a little high and they wake up each time they rise out of deeper sleep. Not usually a problem. They go back to sleep, get in some dreaming, and then they go back down into deeper sleep again. So multiple wakenings isn't much of an issue unless it's really difficult to get back to sleep again and the total hours of sleep are really robbed. And that brings us to the third problem, early morning wakening. This is where you wake up much earlier than you need to, like at 4 a.m., and you just can't get back to sleep again. You're wide awake, and you're usually thinking some pretty dark thoughts, and you can lie there as much as you like, but you're not going to get any more sleep. Most of us have nights like that. But if they're happening really frequently, they can significantly disrupt the amount of sleep we get and our functioning during the day. Early morning wakening is really the biggie for major depression. Several people have referred to it as the diagnostic signature of depression, meaning that it's a pretty good bet if a person reports it and they're getting it a lot, they'll probably have other symptoms of depression as well. Now, I've mentioned the problem that a variety of things can trigger depression, and then depression brings on a number of symptoms. And then those symptoms can feed back and make the depression worse. And some people make a big deal about whether something is one of those original causes or just a result. And my point has been, it doesn't matter much. Once it's present, it becomes a new cause anyway. So even if a person has never had insomnia, once the depression is rolling, they're likely to have some sleep trouble. And this trouble is likely to make the depression even worse. So it should be a focus for our work in therapy anyway. In depression, it's best to treat the symptoms as well as the root causes. So sleep is one of those snowballing problems. And in my experience, it's one of the most common ones and one of the strongest as well. It really serves to get the depression going or to keep it going. If we resolve everything else, well, we don't get anywhere with the sleep. There may be a limit on how much better this person feels. Again, this is distinct from a person who's had chronic insomnia all their life. This isn't the place to talk about that. I may get to it in a later post. But for people who do have chronic insomnia, this may be one risk factor for the development of depression. That said, I've known many people with insomnia who have never become depressed. There is one more primary sleep complaint associated with depression: hypersomnia. This means sleeping too much, not too little. Some people find that they're sleeping 12, 14, 16 hours a day, sometimes all at once, sometimes with a long sleep at night and one or more naps during the day. This can be a problem because it leaves relatively little time left for a person to live their life. As the depression lifts, hypersomnia tends to fade, but it can also be a focus for therapy and for some behavioral management approaches. Often the problem here is that the sleep isn't particularly restful, and the person's sleep cycle is impaired. So they're never entirely in the wake portion during the day, and they're never entirely in the deep sleep portion at night. So those are some of the sleep-related problems that we see with depression. To meet the diagnostic level, these problems need to be present just about every night for at least 2 weeks. The same 2 weeks when they experience those other symptoms. You can get How to Be Miserable from your local bookseller or from Amazon. The link's below.